Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from every part of the world that you're from. My name is Yetunde. I'm that girl Yeti. Guys, grab your tea, grab your coffee, and grab your popcorn. I'm here to talk about the cultural shock I've experienced while I live in America. I've been here for almost 10 years now, and I still get shocked every day, literally every day. Every day. So what's the first one I'm going to talk about? So when I first got into this country, I got a job, and during the interviewer asked me for my availability and everything, and I said, "Oh, I can work every day, but I can't work on Sundays." And with the attitude I give, I don't work on Sundays. It was like, what do you mean that you can't work on Sundays? I said, because I go to church. Because, okay, let me explain. Back home in Nigeria, Sundays are like our sacred days, like for Pentecostal people. Some people go to churches on Saturdays, but mostly everybody in Nigeria go to churches on Sundays. So people don't really get to work on Sundays. So I just told him, I said, oh, because I go to church and I need that day like as my off day and everything. He said, well, you're in America now. Working on Sunday is not an optional thing. It depends on how you're being scheduled to work and all. And I'm like, okay. Work for me is like Monday to Friday. Like basically most of us is Monday to Friday. We have the weekends to ourselves and all. Not everybody, except those that work in the hospitals in Nigeria and all. So it was like, no. I mean, you could get your off days to be Sundays, but not you coming with that attitude like I don't work on Sundays, because I'm a Christian and I go to church every Sunday, like at least on Sundays. I might not go during the week, but at least I go on Sundays. So he said, no, it doesn't happen that way here. Another cultural shock for me was public affection. Guys, I'll be on the train, I'll see a guy and a girl, lovey dovey, lovey, that really happens in Nigeria. Like Makawai, that really happens in Nigeria. People will be like, what's they worry you now? Like, that kind of attitude, like, guys, people don't even want to do all that like people rarely do it. So when I mean people really do, like, it's not everybody, unlike here, it's like a common thing. You're on the bus, people don't even care. That was for me a major cultural shock. Like, you know, public affection. Like, you don't even care if anybody's looking at you. You don't, like, we are in our own world. It's just both of us on this train. It's just both of us on the bus, and every other person is breeze. That kind of a thing. So another culture shock for me was the food. So every place that I go to, every food I order, every restaurant I go to, the food wasn't spicy enough. Oh my god. Me, I'm Nigerian and we love spicy. We love spicy food. So when I go here, I'm like, imagine you living in a country for like 35, 36 years and you get into a place newly and there's no spicy food. I'm like, what's happening here? Spicy for me is like the norm, you understand? But then here, you have to, even when you go to restaurants, you have to order for, spicy and everything. But like the basic back home in Nigeria, that was a shock for me. As in, guys, that was a big shock. Another shock for me was the 24-hour schedule. So back home in Nigeria, there were some kind of jobs that had that 24-hour schedule, but I could say in a ratio of 1 to 10, maybe 2% of the jobs. So imagine a whole country and having major work schedules to be 9 to 5 or 8 to 4. People go to work in the morning and come back in the evening. So, but on getting here, I realized that it's like a 24-hour schedule. Like, they work round the clock. You're leaving, another set is coming. They have the 9 to 5 here too, but most jobs, like literally most jobs, have the 24-hour schedule. Maybe the medical line and even some other kind of jobs too. Although there's still the 9 to 5, but when I first came here, I was like, so people can walk on the street at 1 o'clock. People are meant to be sleeping I remember when I first came, my mom used to be very scared. She'd be like, because I used to do the 4 to 12. They gave me the 4 to 12 shift. So I get off from work at 12 and I had to take the train. And I mean, when I first got here, like I said, it was a shock. But you know how it's a shock to you at first, then you adapt to it and somehow you just flex in it. Right now, at 2 o'clock, I can drive. At 2 o'clock, I can walk on the street. And I'm like, nobody can do anything to me, I'm not scared. My mom will be like, walking on the street at 1 o'clock, I mean, God is our shield and our buckler, but at the same time, the 24-hour schedule was a big shock for me. It was a really big shock for me. Another shock for me, guys, was the way pets are being treated in this country. Hey, Jesus Christ of Nazareth. The way pets are being treated. Pets are like, I see some people, you know how you have like a stroller for babies? That's how they will put their dog or their cats. Do you understand? Then I saw that they had like a whole pet store, like a whole pet store. That for me. So let me say this, let me give this disclaimer. Now, this is based on my own personal experience. It might not be a shock for you, but I'm talking about my own personal experience. These were like the literal culture shocks for me. Coming from a country that had nothing like that, or little or close to nothing like that, or most of us weren't exposed to something like that, and then getting here is like the norm. Pets are being treated like babies. Oh, you take a pet to a dog spa. I can remember the first day I saw a dog spa. I'm like, really? Dog spa? Hey, even me, I've not done a spa. Now my dog will do the spa. They treat dogs, they do their pedicure, they do their manicure, they do all these things. It was shock for me, I'm not gonna lie. It was big shock for me. Another shock for me was the credit score thingy. Back home in Nigeria, there was nothing like credit score. We have to be truthful to ourselves. So if you walk into a bank, if you walk to a bank and you need to get credit from that bank, there were documents they would ask from you. Do you understand? There were documents that you ask from you. Once you can give all those documents, once you can have one or two people, maybe your boss, sign one or two documents, you get the loan you are applying for or something. But here, there's the basic, like everybody, like if you work on your credits and you have a credit score, you have access to credits. You have access to get loans. You have access to buy things on credit, and you get to pay later. So the higher your credit score, the lower your interest, and all that. The lower your credit score, the higher the money you had to people. Back home in Nigeria, we dealt with cash. Cash was king for us. If I have to buy something, I'll save up to buy it. Here, when I got here, I realized, I can remember my friends were telling me, yesterday, you can go wild in the store, buy whatever you want to buy once you have your credit card. And I'm like, okay, this is like a trick. It's a trap built for you. If you keep buying and buying and you get carried away, do you understand? But back home in Nigeria, it's either you do a susu, where like a thrift thing, or you save your money. When your money is complete, you buy whatever you want to buy. You don't have to buy that thing and then pay in bits. You can save up and buy. That was a shock for me because I didn't know about that. Like, even if something like that was present in Nigeria, it wasn't for everybody. Do you understand? It wasn't for everybody. Another cultural shock for me was when I first got my car. So I got to the gas station. We call it petrol station back home, and it's called gas station here. I can remember when I first got it, I was like, I want to buy petrol, but they call it gas here. Back home in Nigeria, there used to be like an attendant that would attend to you. I realized that when I moved from state to state, some states have the attendant, but where I first came into, there was no, at almost, let me just say most gas stations don't have attendants. You have to do it yourself. I was confused. I didn't know what to do. Then in Nigeria, we didn't have the 87, 89, the premium. There was no three different types of gas. Petrol is petrol. I won't buy petrol, you buy petrol. Chikina, do you understand? So here they'll ask you, which one do you want? You want 87? Do you want 89? Do you want premium? I'm like, it was 87. Which one is 87? Which one is 89? So I got confused. I had to beg a guy to help me. Like, listen, I don't know, I'm confused. So it was the guy that showed me, like, this is how you do it. Then, because they had the diesel, they had the gas. So I almost put the diesel in my car. So that was like a culture shock for me and everything. I didn't know about that. Another culture shock for me was the titles. Like, so in Nigeria, most jobs, except for those that work in the banks, they call themselves by the first name. A lot of other places that you work, they use titles. Oh, Mr. This, Mr. John, Mr. Caleb, Mr. Sonny, and all that. But here, you call everybody by their first name. You see people, I don't want to say people are not respectful, but it's not like they're not respectful, but it's just a cultural thing for them to call people by their first name. You can see a grandson calling the grandma by the first name. It doesn't really matter to most of them. Maybe that's just their cultural belief. But in Nigeria, it's not like that. You can't call your grandma by her first name. No, you can't. There should be like a level of respect and everything. But then when I thought my boss is older than me, I had to call him by his first name. You know, it was really, really tough for me when I first got here. But hey, I adapted already. So, but I'm just talking about the cultural shocks that I got when I first got here. So another culture shock for me was about tax returns. So back home in Nigeria, when we work, there's always this group tax filing. Here it's individual tax filing. At the end of the year, they said they will send you a W-2. I was like, which one is W-2 again? Then you go and meet a tax, like a tax guy that would help you. Some people do it themselves, but most people go to meet these tax people every year, and you go file for taxes. And then it depends on what you file, it depends on how you file, maybe head of household, maybe separated, married, whatever your case may be, there's a level of tax return that you get. If you don't earn, if the government feels you don't earn enough, there's a level of tax return you get. Nigeria is not like that though. Please, my Nigeria people, put in the comment section if you got tax returns. Like, tax returns is when you file for taxes and the government deems it fit for them to return some money to you, and you get some little dollars back when you file for your taxes. And it's a two-way thing. Is either you get money back or you pay money to the government. The government feels, oh, you've earned so much, you're owing the government, and you get to pay the government. But in my country, in Nigeria, there's nothing like that. Even if something like that happens, it's from the government to your organization. It's not like a direct thing. There's not like individual filing. I stand to be corrected though, but at least I worked back home in Nigeria, and there was nothing like individual filing. Your company files for you, all your names are on a sheet, then they file and they do all that. So that was another shock for me. So imagine getting here. You know, it's sweeter when you don't earn so much. So when you don't earn so much, they give you tax return. Everybody, in America, February is boiling time. Most people are boiling. Like, some people are changing their cars, some people are changing their furniture because there's an extra change that comes in. Another shock for me was the check deposits on the ATM. In my country, your checks are like, you have to go to the physical bank. Up until when I left Nigeria, you had to go to the physical bank. Maybe now they do cash deposits, but for that check, you have to go to the bank. But here, you can walk up to an ATM thing and just put in the check, pay in your check. You don't have to walk into a bank because there's security codes on these checks already. So they don't really need your ID or all that, because they already have all your details and everything. So another one for me was how expensive making hair was here. In fact, this should have been my first cultural shock, because when I first got here, when I made it was a friend that made my hair, and it was like she was even doing me a favor. I said, you're doing me a favor with this money that you're collecting from me. I said, if it's a favor that you're doing me, I don't like this kind of favor. Guess what I did? I cut my hair. I had to cut. That was the first culture shock. Me When I was in Nigeria, I used to make my hair every 2 weeks, 3 weeks. That's what I used to do. I would go to the salon, wash my hair, make my hair. I wasn't joking with that. When I got here, I'm like, where am I going to get this money from? It was quite expensive, and I'm like, and then some people, you had to carry your hair for a long time because I couldn't do that. That was a big shock for me. I had to literally cut my hair off. So the last one I'm going to talk about, no, not the last one. The second to the last one I'm going to talk about is distance is not a big deal in this country. I'm telling you. I love to drive, but then back home in Nigeria, if I had to drive an hour, if I'm driving an hour or an hour and a half, that means I'm already going interstate. Like I'm going from one state to another. But here, you're not going from one state to another. Within your place, safe. America is such a big place that even within your state, within your area, you can be driving 30-40 minutes and they're like, it's not a big deal. It's not far. It's not a big deal now. It's not really a big deal. It's not far and everything. So then the words we use back home and the words here, like if they call it trunk here. When I first came, I used to say, oh, it's in the boot of my car. And even people will be like, what's boots? Boot of your car? What's boots in the trunk? I'm like, oh, sorry, we call it boots in our car, the boot of my car and everything. Then we used to call it dustbin, like, oh, go and put it in the dustbin. But here they call it the trash. Oh, go and put it in the trash and everything. And like I said, we used to call it like petrol station, but here they call it the gas station. So I still, like, unconsciously, I still use those words that I've been used to when I was in Nigeria, and I'm like, okay. Then in Nigeria we have brick houses. Here there are no brick houses. Your neighbor can be hearing everything you are saying because I think the houses here are like sheet rocks. There are no brick houses here, so everything is, they can even build a house. They can literally build a house compared to my country that you have to like do the foundation, put the bricks, the cement, the gravel and everything. Here they literally build a house from scratch, build it and transport the house to where it has to be. So that's another shock, like another big shock for me. So I realized that apart from the fact that you walk to a place and people look at you and say, where are you from? And I'm like, why? When I first came, I thought I could speak English when I first came to this country. I thought, I could spray. I didn't really realize there was something called an accent. Do you understand? That was a big shock for me. So the people would just be asking me, where are you from? And I'd be like, what do you mean, where am I from? Because we were colonized by the English people in Nigeria. And so, in quote and unquote, every Nigerian child feels they know how to speak good English very well. And we do know how to, we know our tenses, we can speak good English, but then we didn't really know about the accent until we move out of the country. Then realize, listen, when you talk, people know. Like right now, if you're watching my video and you are not Nigerian, you will notice an accent. Oh, a big level of accent. I know that. Do you understand? But me, I'm Nigerian. The Nigerians here will understand what I'm saying. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So when I first got here, when I moved, going to a store, people will be like, oh, where are you from? Where you from? Are you this? Are you that? And I'll be like, no, I'm Nigerian. But I was wondering, why were they saying, where am I from? Where am I from? But later, I realized that, oh, okay, I speak differently, just the way they speak differently. So when I get into a place, they will definitely know that I'm the one, someone that is not American is talking. What's your cultural shock? How long have you been in the country that you're in? Because I know there are culture shocks everywhere. What country are you and how long have you been in that country? Make your comments in the comment section. Let me know your experiences concerning cultural shock. I'll see you in my next video. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe, press the like button, share my videos. Thank you. Bye.